What's up, guys? Welcome in to the podcast, emergency podcast on the channel because the news just broke that Giannis Antetokounmpo was just traded by the Milwaukee Bucks to the Miami Heat in exchange for Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, and a bunch of picks, and I believe another player that they do have. So, with that being said, the Boston Celtics do not acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo, which, obviously they were the favorite for really the last couple of weeks to land Giannis um, in this deal, potentially surrounding, Jaylen Brown and first round picks. But the Celtics do not get Giannis. And two things. First of all, I am absolutely happy that this did not happen because I love Giannis. I think Giannis is a great player, but there's no way I could see Jaylen Brown get traded. So I am so happy that the Celtics are keeping him, at least for now. I did see some rumors that he could still get traded because obviously the Celtics were putting him on the table. But secondly, I think that this is just a smart move because as great of a player as Giannis is, he's just so injury prone. I mean, the guy's missed like the last 4 years of the playoffs, right? He missed a lot of last season and then obviously was hurt in the 22, 23, and 24 playoffs. Honestly, he's just too injury prone for me, as good of a player as he is. As much as I do think him and Tatum would have worked, I just think that the injury concerns, especially on top of Tatum also coming back, off of this Achilles tear, I just don't know how well that would have worked throughout an entire season. So I am just glad we didn't get it. I still think Brad Stevens is a man on a mission. I think he's going to make some moves this offseason to make this team better. He made that very clear in his end of the season press. But yeah, honestly, just surprised that they took this deal. I thought for sure that they were going to want Boston's deal more than the Heat's deal because, with getting Jaylen Brown, you're getting a guy who was literally top 6 in MVP voting this year, showed, he could play as a true number one option. I thought they were going to either take Jaylen Brown or spin him off to a third team like the Clippers or the Hawks or someone like that, the Blazers. That doesn't happen, though. They take the Heat's offer. They also sent over Bobby Portis in that deal. But yeah, Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Kasparas, Jakunas, whoever you say that. I think they just drafted him last year. And then 3 first-round picks, including the number 13 pick. That's a good deal for Milwaukee because obviously now you get a bunch of young guys, which obviously the Bucks are at the point where they just want to start over from scratch. They want to get younger. They get a ton of young players. Khalil Ware is a great young player going into year 2 that could definitely be a starting center on a team. Jaime Jaquez, incredible role player. And then Tyler Hero, he's going to get his chance to really kind of be the number one option in Milwaukee. So, I mean, I think that's a good deal, but I am a little surprised. I really did think that this was going to be, the Celtics that, jumped in and got Giannis because they had, in my opinion, I thought they had the greatest player to offer in this deal, which was Jaylen Brown. Even if Milwaukee didn't keep him, I thought they would have got the most value from that. But either way, fine by me. The Celtics keep Jaylen Brown. I am just happy about that. I just didn't want to see the Jays get split up. I know that, the media, everybody's been trying to break up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for years now. And still, it's going to be unsuccessful. There is a confirmed report, though, that Boston did offer Jaylen Brown plus 2 first-round picks. I think that was their final offer. I'm not sure if Milwaukee tried to get more and Brad Stevens, didn't want to do it. I did hear that, the Bucks were interested in Hugo Gonzalez, so maybe they wanted him and a few other maybe draft picks or a few other players. Maybe Boston just wasn't able to do that, didn't want to do that. Maybe all they really wanted to give was Jaylen Brown and these, 2 first-round picks. But yeah, considering that, I mean, Jaylen Brown's still a Celtic. So now I guess the big question is for Boston is, what do you do going forward? What do you do this offseason to get better? Because obviously the team still needs work, right? They still need to make changes, whether that's getting a true point guard, whether that's bringing in a guy like Trey Murphy, who I know is on the table. Obviously, bringing in another center could be useful. I know that they're in talks about possibly reuniting with Robert Williams, so that could happen as well. But yeah, obviously the question is just how do the Celtics get better now that you are not getting Giannis Antetokounmpo? Do you still trade Jaylen Brown? I hope not. I don't. I just think it's dumb. I think the only way that I would have accepted a Jaylen Brown trade is if I was getting Giannis on a Kupo in return. But if you're not getting Giannis, why are you going to trade Jaylen Brown? Like, I swear, if they trade him to like New Orleans for like Trey Murphy and like DeJounte Murray, which I think Boston is looking into trade for Trey Murphy. If they did a deal like that, like they sent over Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, and like first round picks for DeJounte Murray and Trey Murphy, I don't think they should do that. I think they should keep Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. You can still make the team better around them. Like I said, bring in another big, whether that's Robert Williams or whoever. And then if they can trade for Trey Murphy, I think that they should. I think they can get him with trading like Sam Hauser and first round picks. I don't know if New Orleans will want to take that deal, but if they're just trying to shed his contract, which is kind of, I think it's a 4-year deal, about $25 million a year. I don't know how that necessarily works with the Celtics though, because they had to trade guys like Drew Holiday and Porzingis to get under the second apron. I think that would probably take us back over. So I think the only way that they would get Trey Murphy is if they traded like Derek White, which I don't think that's worth it either. I think we should keep Derek White over Trey Murphy. I really, don't want to see, Brown or White get traded this offseason. I think Tatum, Brown, and White, that's the core that needs to stay. Same with Peyton Pritchard. I think those are the guys you need to keep. Trade guys like Sam Hauser. If you have, the ability to trade younger guys like Gordon Walsh, who might not get like a huge opportunity next year. Like a lot of the younger guys I'd be willing to part ways with, aside from like maybe Ugo Gonzalez. But like I said, make some trades, trade some picks if you have to. Trade Sam Hauser, whatever you have to do. The trade exception that we have from the Simons trade, whatever we have to do, get another player that can help us win, get another center that can play behind Emi Queta. And I just think that's all you really need to do. Have literally 2 MVP type players in Tatum and Brown who have already shown they can go to the finals. They went to 2 NBA finals. They won in 24. They can still win another championship. Like, it's not ridiculous. Just add a few more pieces, and then boom, you're right back in the mix. You're competing with the Knicks, and you're going to the finals. I really didn't think it was going to take a Giannis out of the Cooper to do that. But now that that's over with, I'm happy it's over with, because that was going on for way too long. And at least it's done for. At least that wasn't something we had to listen to the entire summer. It was, where's Giannis going to get traded to? He's going to go to the Heat. He's going to go to the Celtics. Whatever. But in other news, the Timberwolves did also just trade Julius Randle to the Nets in a 3-team trade. The Bulls get Nick Claxton. And I think Minnesota traded the 28th pick, and they got the 33rd pick. They just did that to shed some money. And then they're also going to extend Ayo Dosunmu, who was a guy I did kind of want to see Boston maybe try to go after. But obviously they don't have any money to work with in free agency, really. For a guy like him, it would have to be like a signing trade. But either way, staying on that topic of Minnesota, Minnesota is interested in Derek White, and they did just shed some space with trading Julius Randle. So I don't know if they're still going to try to pursue Derek White. Now that the Celtics didn't get Giannis, I could see them wanting to go after one of the bigs in Minnesota, being Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert. That's going to cost you Derek White, which is why I don't want to do that. I don't think that we should trade Derek White to get Rudy Gobert. I just don't want to do that. And then there's Naz Reid too. I'd actually probably like Rudy Gobert's the better defensive player. Naz Reid's the better offensive player. But either way, I really don't want to trade Derek White for one of those guys. I think Emi Queta is our starting center. I don't think we obviously have to bring in somebody at the cost of Derek White to play center. But either way, I still think that they're going to probably try to pursue him. I don't know, especially since Boston didn't get Giannis, I could see them wanting to make this move. I think if they did get Giannis, I think that they were not going to trade Derek White, especially for a center, because there's already too much going on there. But now I think they could make a move, but I hope not. I hope they keep Derek White. The only way I'd want to trade Derek White is if we got like something crazy in return, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But also Boston drafting from 27 tomorrow. We got the draft tomorrow. Not really sure who we're going to take at 27. I've heard a lot of names. But I also do think that they could trade up in this draft. That's another thing to look out for, is Boston trading up in this draft, because, there's people that they could trade, right? Sam Hauser, Derek White, future picks, guys like that. I definitely could see them trying to move up into this draft from 27. Although Brad Stevens does draft really well from the late 20s. They went like guys like Peyton Pritchard, Robert Williams. They've drafted a lot of guys in the late 20s. Ugo Gonzalez, Baylor Shireman the past couple of years. He's very good at drafting late in the first round. That's one of the greatest things that he can do. But yeah, I could see them trading up. I could see them maybe trying to get into the top 15. Not sure what that would cost you. Like I said, I don't think it's worth trading Derek White. I could see them making some sort of deal where they trade Derek White and the 27th pick to get up in the top 15 and maybe get another player as well to match salaries. So that's something to look out for tomorrow. I think that Brad Stevens could possibly do something tomorrow, especially since he didn't land Giannis. I feel like that could be extra motivation that he wants to get a move done. But I don't know. Either way, Jaylen Brown, still a Boston Celtic. I hope that we don't trade him. I hope that he stays a Boston Celtic. But obviously, with his name just being thrown around all summer after the season he had too, it is really just, it's fucked up, man. It's fucked up. Literally played like an MVP this year. Carried this Jason Tatumless team all season to 56 wins. A team that was called a gap year team. A starting lineup at the beginning of the season that literally looked like it was probably going to win at max 40 games, and they go out there and win 56. It does suck that, like, he has to deal with this, like, a lot, right? There was only, like, a few seasons that he didn't have to deal with his name in trade talks, right? Because you think about a few years ago with the whole KD stuff. There was 2 separate times, I think, when KD was getting traded from Brooklyn and then when he was getting traded from Phoenix. Both of those times, you had to hear Jaylen Brown's name. But now, hopefully, he doesn't get traded. Like I said, I don't know where he would even go now. I mean, I guess the teams that would be interested are still Atlanta, Portland, New Orleans, and Houston. Probably the top 4 teams that are interested. I know the Clippers were interested too, but I don't think that Boston would trade him for the 5th pick. I don't know. I don't know if that's something they'd be willing to do, to be honest with you. Especially since, like, at number 5, I don't think there's a generational enough player that you can really swap Jaylen Brown out with. The only people would be AJ and then Darren Peterson, to be honest, because they're like younger versions of Jaylen Brown. But I don't think that they're going to do that. Like at number 5, it's probably going to be Keaton Wagler because I think Darius Acuff goes 6 to the Nets. So I think Wagler goes number 5. I don't know. I don't think the Celtics trade up that far up in the draft. I think they'll probably, if they do want to make a move, I think they'll probably try to get like the top 15, maybe top 20, something like that. But yeah, definitely stay on your toes. Definitely could be trading Jaylen Brown or Derek White tomorrow still. I don't think Jaylen Brown would be moved tomorrow unless they would try to get into the top 5, like I said, like in a Clippers deal. But I think Derek White is definitely a guy that could be moved tomorrow. So I would definitely look out for that to move up in the draft, like I said. So, but yeah, guys, just wanted to do an emergency podcast because, a lot of my recent videos have been talking about Giannis coming to Boston, talking about Jaylen Brown being traded. So now we don't have to deal with this. We can finally just relax, hopefully, for a little bit before the trade rumors pick back up, and we'll see what NBA Twitter has for us tomorrow, considering, where's Jaylen Brown going to get traded to now? Is he still going to get traded? Is he happy with the Celtics? Is he upset with the Celtics? That's the last thing I want. If he's unhappy with the team, then, you got to get on his wish. But, like, because you can respect that, right? Like, if he wants to get traded now, you kind of have to respect it because he's had to deal with this so much in his name and trade talks. But I hope he's not. I hope that he just wants to go out next season, play for the Celtics because he knows the fans love him. I hope he just wants to go out and just play even better than he did this year. I really hope that he's not going to force his way out of Boston because, like I said, I don't want to trade Jaylen Brown if I'm not getting Giannis in return. But hopefully he is still a Celtic at the beginning of next season. That's all I can say. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for the podcast. It's after midnight now. Glad we got this Giannis stuff wrapped up. Mixed feelings. Obviously, getting Giannis would have been crazy. But at the same time, I'm just happy that we get to keep Jaylen Brown. We got the NBA draft tomorrow, though, so stay tuned for that. Might do a podcast after the draft tomorrow, especially if we make a few moves. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, guys, go Celtics as always. See you in the next one.